the flash of 1,000 cameras, the hushed murmur of hundreds of New York's elite, the scent of 1,000,000 white roses. It should have been the most perfect moment of my life. I, Elise, at 28 years old, stood bathed in the spotlight on a raised platform in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, the very air shimmering with anticipation. My bespoke silk gown, a masterpiece of modern architecture in fabric form, whispered around my ankles, my heart hammered, not with nerves, but with pure, unadulterated joy. This was it, the fairy tale. Beside me, Ethan, my fiancé, a man who seemed to have stepped straight out of a GQ magazine, beamed. His hand, warm and reassuring, held mine. He was the golden boy, the handsome, seemingly devoted scion of the prominent Vanderbilt real estate dynasty. His family's name was etched into the very skyline of this city, a testament to generations of power and influence. Marrying Ethan wasn't just marrying a man, it was marrying into a legacy, a world of old money, prestige, and endless possibilities. I was an architect, ambitious and deeply passionate about shaping the urban landscape. My own firm, though relatively young, was already making waves, known for its innovative, sustainable designs. I believed I was marrying into a life of love and partnership, a perfect blend of my vibrant career and a supportive, powerful family. We were the modern power couple, poised to conquer both the architectural world and the social scene. My parents, bless their hearts, were in the front row, beaming, their faces alight with pride. They were modest academics, their world far removed from the opulent grandeur of the plaza, but they loved me fiercely. To them, this was a dream come true for their only daughter, a testament to my hard work and success. They envisioned a future where I would continue to soar, with Ethan as my loving co-pilot. Everything felt utterly, spectacularly perfect. The officiant, a distinguished judge known for his witty and heartfelt ceremonies, stepped forward, a gentle smile on his face. He cleared his throat and the buzz in the ballroom softened to a reverent hush. My eyes met Ethan's. His were pools of adoration. This was the moment, the beginning of forever. Then a ripple, a stir at the edge of the platform. A figure emerged from the front row, stepping with an almost predatory grace into the spotlight, directly interrupting the judge. It was Eleanor Vanderbilt, Ethan's mother, the matriarch, a woman carved from ice and diamonds, known for her impeccable style, her razor-sharp wit, and an equally icy demeanor. She exuded old money power, a silent, formidable force in every room she entered. Tonight, however, there was something else in her gaze, a glint that sent a shiver down my spine. A smile, thin and unreadable, played on her lips. It didn't reach her eyes. In her perfectly manicured hand, she held a crisp, formal document. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't a toast. It looked legal. My heart gave a tiny, disquieting flutter. Ethan shifted uncomfortably beside me, his hand tightening almost imperceptibly on mine, and I felt a faint tremor. He looked suddenly pale, a sheen of sweat appearing on his brow. The adoration in his eyes was replaced by a flicker of fear. "Before we proceed," Eleanor announced, her voice resonating through the hushed hall, each word perfectly articulated, carrying absolute authority. Her voice, usually reserved for charity galas and boardroom pronouncements, now commanded the attention of everyone present. "Elise, my dear." Her smile widened, but it felt more like a baring of teeth. "You are about to become a Vanderbilt, and with that honor comes certain responsibilities. Sacred obligations, one might say." A collective murmur rippled through the crowd. This was highly unusual, unprecedented even. My own parents exchanged bewildered glances, their smiles fading into frowns of confusion. What was happening? Eleanor, seemingly oblivious to the growing discomfort, produced a pair of elegant reading glasses and perched them on her nose. She straightened the document in her hand. It was several pages long, stapled neatly. My stomach churned. This wasn't part of the plan. This wasn't the fairy tale. "As a future Vanderbilt daughter-in-law," Eleanor began to read, her voice clear and unwavering. You, Elise Thorne, do solemnly swear to uphold the following tenets, vital for the preservation of our family's traditions and legacy. I exchanged a bewildered glance with Ethan. He avoided my eyes, staring fixedly at the floor. My stomach tightened further. Firstly, Eleanor continued, her voice gaining a chilling formality, you shall consider your mother-in-law as number one in all matters pertaining to family, household, and social engagements. Her word shall be final. A soft gasp escaped my lips. I looked at Ethan, my eyes wide. He finally met my gaze, a pleading, helpless expression on his face. What is she talking about? My eyes asked. His only response was a subtle, almost imperceptible shake of his head, as if to say, just listen. Secondly, Eleanor read on, seemingly enjoying the palpable tension in the room, you shall assume responsibility for all household chores within the Vanderbilt residence, ensuring the upkeep and smooth running of the household. Our family values domestic proficiency. My jaw dropped. All household chores? I managed a multi-million-dollar architectural firm. My hands were usually covered in charcoal and blueprint ink, not dish soap. This was outrageous. Thirdly, and crucially, Eleanor's voice hardened, upon marriage, you shall be strictly forbidden from working outside the home. Your primary duty will be to the family and the perpetuation of the Vanderbilt line. The air left my lungs in a whoosh. My career, my passion, my identity. Forbidden? My parents, in the front row, suddenly looked less bewildered and more enraged. My father's hand clenched into a fist on his knee. My mother clutched her chest, her face draining of color. Furthermore, Eleanor pressed on, relentless, to fully integrate into the Vanderbilt family, you shall sever all ties with your own parents and any previous familial associations that do not align with our esteemed lineage. My head snapped up. Sever ties with my parents, the people who loved me unconditionally, who had sacrificed everything for my education, for my dreams? The suggestion was a monstrous absurdity. This wasn't a marriage. It was an abduction. Regarding progeny, Eleanor announced, her voice chillingly precise, you shall bear at least 5 children, ensuring a robust continuation of the Vanderbilt name. Early and frequent conception is expected. 5 children? I loved kids, dreamed of having 1 or 2 someday, but 5? As a mandated requirement? This was becoming a nightmare. The whispers in the ballroom were no longer hushed, they were growing louder, incredulous gasps and indignant murmurs. Additionally, Eleanor continued as if reading a grocery list, in the unfortunate event of marital discord, you shall relinquish all rights to divorce. A Vanderbilt marriage is for life, regardless of circumstances. My mind reeled. No right to divorce? This wasn't a marriage. It was a life sentence. A gilded cage, certainly, but a cage nonetheless. I was supposed to be a modern woman, an independent professional, not some chattel to be owned. Finally, Eleanor concluded, her voice dropping to a low, almost casual tone, but with a horrifying implication that reverberated through the stunned silence of the ballroom. You shall accept Ethan's relationships with other women as a natural aspect of a man of his standing and appetites. The Vanderbilt men have always been afforded certain liberties, and a discerning wife understands her place. The words hung in the air, a poisonous cloud. Accept Ethan's affairs? My fiancé. My heart, which had been beating so joyfully moments ago, now felt like a block of ice. The smiling, devoted man beside me, the one I thought I knew, suddenly looked like a stranger, his averted gaze and pale face confirming every horrifying word his mother uttered. The terms were a shocking blend of archaic expectations and outright subjugation. My dreams of love, partnership, and a vibrant shared future crumbled into dust. This wasn't a fairy tale. This was a horror story, and I was the unsuspecting protagonist about to be trapped within its pages. The radiant bride I had been just moments ago felt like a distant, naive memory. The stage was set, not for a wedding, but for a reckoning, and I knew, with chilling certainty that I would not go quietly. The air in the ballroom, moments ago thick with anticipation, was now charged with a horrifying silence. Eleanor Vanderbilt stood there, a triumphant glint in her icy eyes, having just laid bare the terms of my gilded cage. The words, "no working, 5 children, no divorce, other women," echoed in my head, each one a hammer blow to the fairy tale I had so naively believed in. The blood drained from my face, leaving me feeling as cold and brittle as the crystal chandeliers above. Then, a furious heat rushed back, burning through my veins, igniting a wildfire of indignation. This wasn't just old-fashioned. It was an insult to my intelligence, my ambition, my very being. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my parents. My mother, usually so composed, had gasped, clutching her chest, her face ashen. I could almost hear the frantic beating of her heart. She looked almost on the verge of a heart attack. My father, his jaw clenched, his eyes blazing, looked ready to storm the stage and throttle Eleanor himself. The absurdity of it, the sheer audacity, was suffocating. It felt like a cruel joke, played out for the entertainment of New York's elite. But the initial shock quickly gave way to something else, a cold, clear rage settling over me, like the quiet before a storm. My mind, trained in the precise logic of architectural design, suddenly saw the entire elaborate scene for what it was, a trap. And I, Elise Thorne, was not about to be caught in it. My eyes flickered instinctively to the front row. There, Chloe, my best friend, and the most loyal, fierce supporter a girl could ask for, stood frozen. Her phone, which she had been dutifully filming with for her budding vlogging channel, lay half-forgotten in her slack hand. Her own jaw was dropped, her eyes wide with horrified disbelief. I met Chloe's eyes. In that instant, a silent conversation, a primal understanding passed between us. She saw the rage, the betrayal, the resolve. And she knew. With a subtle, almost imperceptible nod, I formed the words on my lips, mouthing them clearly, fiercely. "Keep rolling, Chloe!" Her eyes snapped into focus, a spark of understanding, then a fierce glint mirroring my own flickered in her gaze. She gripped her phone, steadying it, and I knew she understood. This wasn't just an engagement party anymore. It was about to be a viral exposé. Then I turned back to Eleanor. She stood there, a smug, self-satisfied smile playing on her lips, as if she had just performed a masterstroke. She still held the despicable document, a symbol of her patriarchal tyranny. The ballroom was silent, so utterly still you could hear a pin drop, every single eye fixed on me. I took a deep breath, letting the cold fury sharpen my voice. It was low but piercing, cutting through the stunned silence like a freshly sharpened blade. My voice didn't tremble. It resonated with a power I hadn't known I possessed. "Congratulations, Mrs. Vanderbilt," I said, each word dripping with an icy politeness that masked a volcano of contempt. "I hope you find the daughter-in-law you've always dreamed of." The polite facade cracked for a split second on Eleanor's face, a flicker of confusion. She hadn't expected defiance, she had expected submission. Then, with a precise, deliberate motion, I raised my left hand. On my finger, the enormous diamond engagement ring, a rock the size of a pigeon's egg, glittered under the ballroom lights. It was a symbol of love, of commitment. Now it was nothing more than a symbol of my imminent enslavement. I felt its weight, its coldness. It felt like a shackle. My thumb and forefinger worked quickly, unclasped it from my finger. The platinum band, the perfectly cut diamond, it all felt utterly repulsive in my hand. I held it for a brief, pregnant moment, letting the weight of my decision sink in, not just for myself, but for everyone watching. For Ethan, for his mother, for my family, for the entire Vanderbilt legacy. Then, with a swift, powerful flick of my wrist, I flung it directly at Ethan's face. The trajectory was perfect. The massive diamond, meant to represent eternal love, became a miniature projectile of pure, unadulterated fury. It didn't just hit him, it ricocheted off his temple with a sickening clack, eliciting a sharp, undignified yelp from my supposed fiancé. He staggered back a step, clutching the side of his head, his handsome face contorted in pain and utter shock. The beautiful, sparkling symbol of our union landed with a tiny, almost imperceptible bounce on the pristine white carpet, a cold, hard repudiation of everything he and his mother stood for. A collective gasp, louder this time, rippled through the ballroom. Whispers erupted, quickly turning into an excited, confused buzz. Flashbulbs, which had momentarily stopped, now exploded like a supernova. The fairy tale had just turned into a brawl, and everyone knew it. My heart was still hammering, but now it was with exhilaration. The act was so liberating, so viscerally satisfying, it was almost intoxicating. The sight of Ethan clutching his head, his perfect facade shattered, was more gratifying than any wedding vow. He had stood there, a coward, while his mother attempted to sign away my life. He deserved worse than a ring to the temple. Eleanor, her face now a mask of pure, unadulterated fury, took a step towards me, her eyes blazing with an icy fire that matched my own. She opened her mouth, no doubt to unleash some venomous retort, but I beat her to it. My voice, now raised for everyone to hear, sliced through the burgeoning commotion, clear and resolute. "This engagement is off," I declared, the words ringing with a newfound freedom that tasted sweeter than any wedding cake. Each syllable was a hammer blow, shattering the illusion, demolishing the carefully constructed pretense of their power. Gasps rippled through the stunned crowd, louder this time, followed by a torrent of whispers. Ethan, finally shaking off the initial shock and pain, sprang forward, his eyes wide with desperation. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my silk sleeve. "Elise, wait! You don't understand. My mother, you just have to endure it," he pleaded, his voice hoarse, desperately trying to salvage the rapidly sinking ship of his perfect engagement. "We can talk about this. You don't have to agree to everything." I yanked my arm free, my eyes blazing, staring him down. "Endure this?" I spat, gesturing with my hand to Eleanor, who stood rigid, her face a terrifying mixture of rage and disbelief, and then to the grotesque contract still clutched in her hand. "Endure being a broodmare, a glorified maid, a silenced ghost in my own life, accepting your liberties with other women?" My voice rose, cutting through the murmuring crowd. "Never. I am an architect, Ethan. I build structures. I don't live in cages, especially not one built by your mother's archaic delusions." His face crumpled. He was trying to appeal to the old me, the girl who might have succumbed to the pressure, who might have tried to make it work for the sake of appearances or the promise of wealth. But that girl was gone, incinerated in the heat of Eleanor's outrageous demands. I turned on my heel, a whirlwind of emerald silk and defiant purpose. My heart, though still pounding, was now alight with a wild, exhilarating sense of liberation. My parents, bless them, snapped out of their shock. My father immediately rose, his face grim, and put a firm arm around my mother, who was still looking a bit pale, but now with a spark of fierce pride in her eyes. "Let's go," my father muttered, his voice low and determined. Chloe, ever the professional, had quickly regained her composure. Her phone, steady as a rock, was now capturing every dramatic step, every shocked face, every whisper of the unfolding scandal. I even saw a few other guests pulling out their phones, but Chloe had the prime angle, the raw, unfiltered truth. I walked towards the grand entrance of the ballroom, my head held high, my spine ramrod straight. Each step felt lighter, more purposeful than any I had taken walking down that aisle. Behind me I could hear the escalating murmur of the crowd, the frantic whispers, the sound of Eleanor's furious, strangled gasps. "Elise, don't you dare walk out!" Ethan yelled, taking a step after me, but his voice was drowned out by the sudden, spontaneous cheer that erupted from a small group of my friends and colleagues who had witnessed the entire debacle. They weren't just my friends, they were my chosen family, and their support was a lifeline. They moved to flank me, forming a protective, triumphant escort. I glanced back, just once. Ethan stood alone on the abandoned altar, the diamond ring glinting innocently on the white carpet near his feet. Eleanor, rigid as a marble statue, her face contorted with impotent rage, looked utterly defeated. The grand ballroom, meant to host my fairy tale, had instead become the stage for their very public humiliation. And it was glorious. I exited the ballroom, followed by my cheering and supportive friends and family, leaving a bewildered, humiliated Ethan and a furious Eleanor standing alone on the abandoned altar, surrounded by the remnants of a shattered dream. Their dream, not mine. The fresh night air of New York, usually thick with city fumes, smelled like freedom. The cool New York air, usually thick with the scent of exhaust and hot pavement, felt exhilaratingly fresh against my face as I stepped out of the plaza. The collective gasp and then the murmuring roar of the ballroom faded behind me, replaced by the excited chatter and supportive shouts of my friends and family. My parents, looking both shaken and incredibly proud, embraced me tightly. Chloe, my brilliant, quick-thinking best friend, was still clutching her phone, a triumphant grin splitting her face. "You got that right, Chloe?" I asked, a wild, almost hysterical laugh bubbling up from my chest. "Every single glorious second E!" she practically shrieked, her eyes gleaming. "From the contract to the ring to the walkout, it's gold, absolute gold." And it was. That very night, the video of the unengagement went viral. Chloe, being the social media-savvy powerhouse she was, had uploaded it the moment we got into the cab, tagging every major news outlet, every celebrity gossip site, every feminist group. The title she gave it was simple, yet devastatingly effective. "Vanderbilt Bride Says No to Tyranny." It exploded. It wasn't just a video, it was a phenomenon. My precise, defiant unengagement, captured in raw, unfiltered footage, became a cultural touchstone overnight. Every outrageous demand Eleanor had read out, every archaic stipulation, was amplified a millionfold. The visual of the diamond ring flying across the ballroom and bouncing off Ethan's temple became an iconic GIF, shared endlessly across every platform imaginable. From the New York Times to TMZ, from morning talk shows to late-night comedy sketches, the story dominated. The Vanderbilts, once untouchable, revered figures of old-money New York prestige, became a national laughingstock. Eleanor, the formidable matriarch, was mercilessly lampooned, swiftly dubbed the tyrant matriarch. Caricatures of her, clutching her ridiculous contract, appeared in every major newspaper. Ethan, my supposedly devoted fiancé, who had stood by silently while his mother attempted to sign away my autonomy, was branded the spineless prince. His image, once one of sophisticated charm, was now forever associated with cowering in the face of his mother and getting hit by a diamond. Their carefully constructed world of old-money prestige crumbled under a barrage of ridicule and condemnation. The calls started almost immediately. First, from scandal sheets eager for an exclusive, which I politely declined. Then, more significantly, from news anchors, from women's rights organizations, even from a few prominent figures in the architectural world who applauded my courage. The Vanderbilt name, once synonymous with power and wealth, was now a punchline. I heard whispers through the grapevine. Potential business partners pulled out of deals with Ethan's firm, wary of the public relations nightmare. The socialites who had once fawned over Eleanor now actively avoided her. Even the most desperate gold diggers, I heard, wouldn't touch Ethan with a 10-foot pole. He became a pariah, not just in New York, but across the country. The power of public opinion, fueled by undeniable video evidence, had delivered a far more potent blow than any lawsuit ever could. Meanwhile, my own life, which had been set for a meticulously planned trajectory, spun off into an exhilarating, unpredictable orbit. I, Elise Thorne, the runaway bride, became an instant feminist icon. My inbox overflowed with messages of support, solidarity, and, most importantly for my career, new opportunities. Clients, especially high-profile women in business and arts, clamored to work with the audacious architect who stood up for herself. They didn't just want my designs, they wanted a piece of my spirit, a touch of that fearless defiance. My architectural firm, which had been steadily growing, exploded. We landed major contracts for innovative, empowering projects, a women's co-working space, a sustainable community housing project, even a bold, avant-garde art gallery. I hired more staff, expanded my office, and thrived on the back of my viral fame, and, more importantly, my undeniable talent. The projects I took on were no longer just about building structures. They were about building spaces that embodied freedom, strength, and integrity. My designs became synonymous with empowerment. I learned truly that true value lies not in societal expectations or inherited wealth, but in self-worth and unwavering integrity. The ring, that symbol of a supposed fairy tale, had been a beautiful cage. Walking away from it, flinging it away, had been the single most liberating act of my life. It was a terrifying leap into the unknown, but the freedom on the other side was boundless. I had thought I wanted to marry into legacy, into an established name. But I realized I was meant to build my own. My own legacy, one brick, one blueprint, one defiant stand at a time. My story became a powerful reminder. Sometimes walking away from a dream is the bravest, most rewarding act of all. It paves the way for a freedom and success far greater than any gilded cage could offer. It showed me that true partnership isn't about submission, but about mutual respect. That love should elevate, not diminish, and that no amount of money or prestige is worth sacrificing your soul for. I was an architect, yes, and I had just designed the most magnificent structure of all, a life built on my own terms. And so the story of Elise Thorne, the architect who built her own destiny, concludes. Her journey, born from a moment of public humiliation and defiance, became a powerful testament to self-worth, courage, and the unwavering pursuit of a life truly lived on one's own terms. If Elise's empowered stand against archaic expectations resonated with you, if her walkout inspired you to never settle for less than you deserve, please consider giving this story a like. Your support helps us share narratives that celebrate strength, independence, and the courage to break free from suffocating traditions. For more captivating stories of personal liberation, unexpected triumphs, and characters who redefine their own fairy tales, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We genuinely invite you to comment below with your thoughts on Elise's choices, your own experiences with standing up for yourself, or any insights this tale may have sparked within you. We truly value your feedback and appreciate every single comment. Thank you for joining us on Elise's unforgettable journey to freedom. We look forward to connecting with you again.